Welcome to a slow, beginner-friendly lesson on tuples in Python, made for absolute beginners. The fixed collection awaits. Today we meet the tuple. You already know lists, an ordered collection you can change. A tuple is the same idea, with one big difference: once you create it, you cannot change it. No adding, no removing, no swapping items. In this lesson we focus only on what a tuple is. We do not explore every method or trick. We answer one question: what is this thing, and why does Python give it to you alongside lists? One word: immutable. You have already learned the list, an ordered collection you can grow, shrink, and reshape. Today we meet its close cousin. A tuple is also an ordered collection. It keeps items in order, first, second, third. But where a list is changeable, a tuple is fixed. Once you write it, it stays. Same family, very different contract. In this lesson we only ask what a tuple is. The deep how to comes in later lessons. Same family, new rule. You have met lists. Now meet their cousin, the tuple. Same shape, very different rules. Meet the cousin. Here is the definition. A tuple is an ordered collection of items, written with parentheses. 3,4 inside round brackets. That is a tuple. Two key ideas: ordered, the items have a position, first and second. And immutable, once created, the tuple cannot be changed. You cannot add a new item. You cannot remove one. You cannot replace an item with another. It looks like a list, but it is locked. Ordered and locked. Here is how you create a tuple. Point equals 3,4 inside parentheses. Type of point returns tuple. Python recognizes the shape. The items are separated by commas, and the parentheses group them together. You can mix types freely. Name equals Ada, Lovelace, 1815, a string, another string, and a number, all in one tuple. The comma is what makes it a tuple. The parentheses are mostly for readability. Parentheses and commas. A tuple is locked. Once you write it down, it stays. That is its whole purpose. Locked in place. Look at the shape of a tuple. You see a small row of cells holding values, with parentheses around them and commas between them. Each value has a position: index 0, index 1, index 2. The parentheses are the visual cue that this is a tuple, not a list. The whole thing is sealed: no door, no hatch, no way in. You can read what is at each position. You cannot reach in and swap a value. Think of it as a row of locked glass boxes. Read but do not touch. Immutable is the key word. A list is mutable: you can append, remove, sort, and assign. A tuple is immutable. Once Python has created it, the contents are fixed in place. You can read any item by its position. You can count the items with len. You can loop over them. What you cannot do is change the tuple itself. No append. No remove. No item assignment. Think of a sealed envelope. You can read the letter inside. You cannot swap it for another. Sealed by design. There are three things you cannot do with a tuple. You cannot add an item after it is created: no append, no insert. You cannot remove an item: no pop, no remove. You cannot change an item that is already there: no assignment to a position. If you try any of these, Python raises a type error and tells you the tuple does not support that operation. This is not a bug or a limitation. It is the promise a tuple makes to you. The promise it keeps. Indexing, length, slicing, all the skills you already have still work. The change is in the contract. Your skills still work. Here is the good news. Almost everything you learned about reading a list works the same way on a tuple. Indexing works: point square brackets 0 gives the first item, point square brackets -1 gives the last. Length works: len of point gives the number of items. Slicing works: point colon 0 to 2 gives the first two items as a new tuple. The in operator works: 3 and point returns true. Your reading skills transfer completely. Reading is allowed. Indexing works exactly like a list. Point equals 3,4. Point square brackets 0 returns 3, the first item. Point square brackets 1 returns 4, the second item. Point square brackets -1 returns 4, the last item, counting from the end. Positions start at 0, just like lists. Reading by position is a read-only operation, so it is perfectly fine on a tuple. You are not changing anything. You are just looking. Positions from 0. Len works on tuples just like on lists. Point equals 3,4. Len of point returns 2, there are two items. RGB equals 255, 128, 0. Len of RGB returns 3. Len never modifies the collection. It only counts. So it works on every collection you will meet: lists, tuples, dictionaries, sets. Length is a question, not an action. A question, not an action. Watch what happens when you try to change a tuple. Point equals 3, 4. Point square brackets 0 equals 5, Python raises type error. The tuple does not support item assignment. Point dot append of 5, Python raises attribute error. The tuple has no append method at all. These errors are the tuple keeping its promise. It told you it was fixed. It meant it. There is no workaround to mutate a tuple in place. The error is the lesson. Where do tuples live in the real world? Anywhere data should not change. GPS coordinates, latitude 52.07, longitude 4.28, a fixed point on Earth. An RGB color, 255, 128, 0, a fixed orange. A date, 1815, December, the 10th, a fixed day in history. These are records you read often and never edit. That is exactly what a tuple is for. The data is meaningful as a whole, and it should not drift. Fixed records everywhere. Here are those real-world tuples in code. Chord equals 52.07, 4.28, latitude and longitude. Color equals 255, 128, 0, an RGB orange. Birthday equals 1815, 12, 10, a year, month, day. You read chord square brackets 0 to get the latitude. You call len of color to confirm 3 channels. The tuple holds the record. You read what you need. You never edit it. Read what you need. Fixed data has a superpower, you can trust it. It will not shift beneath your feet. Trust the fixed. Why does Python bother with immutable collections? Because fixed data is predictable data. If you pass a tuple to a function, you know the function cannot change it behind your back. If you share a tuple across your program, it stays the same everywhere. There is also a technical benefit. Tuples can be used as keys in a dictionary. Lists cannot. A dictionary key must not change, so Python refuses to accept a list. A tuple, being immutable, is welcome. Predictable is powerful. Here is the contrast. A list uses square brackets, ordered and changeable. You can append, remove, and assign. A tuple uses parentheses, ordered and fixed. You can read, but not edit. Both support indexing, len, slicing, and the in operator. Both hold any mix of types. The difference is the contract. When the data must not change, coordinates, colors, dates, choose a tuple. When the data will grow or change, a shopping cart, a list of users, choose a list. The contract differs. Think of a tuple as a sealed envelope. You can read what is inside. You cannot swap the contents. Sealed like an envelope. Here is a small gotcha that catches every beginner. To make a tuple with one item, you must write a trailing comma, 42 comma inside parentheses. Type of 1 returns tuple. Len returns 1. Without the comma, just parentheses around 42, Python treats the parentheses as grouping, not as a tuple. Type returns int. The comma is what makes a tuple. The parentheses are decoration. Always remember the trailing comma for a single item. Mind the comma. Quick self-check. Can you say in one sentence what a tuple is? Can you explain why it uses parentheses instead of square brackets? Can you confirm that indexing and len work exactly like on a list? Can you explain what happens when you try to assign to a tuple position? If any of these feels shaky, rewatch the matching part. You do not need to know every method yet, just what a tuple is and why it is locked. Say each out loud. Here is the whole lesson in one breath. A tuple is an ordered, immutable collection. It uses parentheses, 3, 4. You read items with indexing and len, exactly like a list. You never edit a tuple, no append, no remove, no assignment. Trying raises type error. Choose a tuple when the data must stay fixed, coordinates, colors, dates, records. The lock is the point. Fixed data is predictable data. Fixed is the point. Next lesson we go deeper into how to create tuples, including unpacking, swapping, and returning multiple values from a function. Then we explore indexing and slicing in more detail. Then we use tuples inside loops, and you will see them everywhere in real Python code. The fixed collection opens many doors. Today you learned what it is. Next you learn what it can do. Creating them is next. If you want a quick practice, open your shell and write these 4 lines. Create a tuple, point equals 3, 4. Read the first item, point square brackets 0 returns 3. Count the items, len of point returns 2. Then try to change an item, point square brackets 0 equals 5, and watch Python raise type error. That error is the lesson. The tuple is sealed. When that feels clear in your hands, you are ready for what comes next. Feel the lock in your hands. Thanks for learning what a tuple is. Next we learn how to create and use them. See you in the next lesson.